she or they.
Okay, that's fine. It's interesting because I have a contractor coming too that's going to be working in the background here, so
Oh,
must be that day.
Good morning, Colette.
good morning.
How are you?
Good. Good.
That's good.
Finally rained.
Yay.
Finally rained. That's good. I feel like I needed it.
Yeah, it was getting, everything was so dry.
We put water out for the animals. We had a little kiddie pool.
Oh, okay.
So we filled it up and pushed it down by the woods because I
Yeah.
don't know how they do it, but they eat green leaves and.
Yeah, I think they get a lot. We've got a pond behind us.
Yeah, you
so
said that, you have.
That's why I think we
Yeah.
get all that wildlife.
And the reservoir is not that far. I mean, they travel
Right.
a lot, but I don't know. You have to go
Yeah.
across roads.
I do that too. I've got a bowl that water is dripping out of the hose into.
Oh, that's
The-
nice.
And it's so cute to see the little chipmunks come put their feet up on the edge of the bowl and drink. Yeah.
Yeah, the bird baths have been dry as dust. I keep forgetting to put water
Yeah,
in them.
that-
So.
Ours wait to see us fill it. They come running.
I haven't been able to feed the birds in a month and a half because
Yeah.
of the darn bears.
Yeah, we don't put the feed out either because the bear is right down there.
Yeah,
He's right down there in the woods.
They're like,
He's always
okay.
there.
food for me,
Yep.
not for the birds.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was good last night. I felt a lot better about things.
Yeah,
Even
me
though
too.
things weren't better.
Me too.
It felt better.
Yeah, really, I was rejoicing all the way to the bed.
All right. Well, that's good. That is good.
That was good. That was good. That's something we should, if you're going to find a song for us and all learn, and then we sing that at the end, and
Make ourselves feel good.
it lets us go to sleep.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's going to be
downstairs, yeah. So until he gets here, I'm not gonna go to do the waters, plus Linda and I'll have to do the payroll.
Okay, that's fine.
So I may end up doing everything after you're done.
Okay.
Good morning.
Maybe I
Are we
should-
live?
We are live. Yes, we are. Traveling around the world right now.
Okay.
Mainly because Coletta's going to have to leave.
Okay.
Oh,
Requested that we make sure we record it all.
Okay, so,
Come back and listen again.
yuck.
So. Just letting you know, we're going to have a contractor come in here. Because those two lights, we can't get them to come on. Circuit breaker's blown on them.
oh,
But he's going to come. I'm sure all he has to do is replace the circuit breaker because it's worn out.
okay, famous last words. I'm sure all it is.
Yeah, and then you'll come next week and the
Positive
ceiling will
power
all
of
be down.
positive thinking.
Exactly.
Yes. So, in the spirit of last night, we should begin with the words of Psalm 100.
Sounds a little stronger.
This, it's raining hard. Praise the Lord for that. Raise a shout to Yahweh, all the earth. This is a different translation than you all had, but raise a shout to Yahweh, all the earth. Serve Yahweh with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Acknowledge that Yahweh, he is God. He made us, and we are indeed his people, and the flock he shepherds. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and bless his name. For Yahweh is good. His steadfast love is forever, and to generation after generation is his faithfulness. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So, where are we in Jeremiah?
We're in Jeremiah. I don't remember where.
My last.
Well, I guess my
36.
bookmark didn't help you any.
Look, I have it right here.
37.
I knew I was going to get yelled
I
at.
come up with 37.
I pulled it out of the Jeremiah book because I needed two, since I have two commentaries.
Excuses.
Yeah, I know.
I'll get you another
So,
bookmark.
37?
I actually have one in the car. I have 37. Should be the next.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, that's right, because last time we read that one with all the names in it, and Micaiah was there, and I told you that story of Micaiah ben Imlah.
So I
Okay,
guess it's my turn.
all right then.
Yeah, I got those names last week. I don't.
Zedekiah's vain hope. Zedekiah, son of Josiah, whom King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon made king in the land of Judah, succeeded Coniah, son of Joachim. But neither he nor his servants, nor the people of the land, listened to the words of the Lord that he spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. King Zedekiah sent Jehucal, son of Shelemiah, and the priest Zephaniah, son of Messiah, to the prophet Jeremiah, saying, "Please pray for us to the Lord our God." Now Jeremiah was still going in and out among the people, for he had not yet been put in prison. Meanwhile, the army of Pharaoh had come out of Egypt, and when the Chaldeans who were besieging Jerusalem heard news of them, they withdrew from Jerusalem. Then the word of the Lord came to the prophet Jeremiah. "Thus says the Lord, God of Israel, this is what you shall say to the king of Judah, who sent you to me to inquire of me. Pharaoh's army, which set out to help you, is going to return to its own land, to Egypt, and the Chaldeans shall return and fight against this city. They shall take it and burn it with fire. Thus says the Lord, do not deceive yourselves, saying, the Chaldeans will surely go away from us, for they will not go away. Even if you defeated the whole army of Chaldeans who are fighting against you, and there remained of them only wounded men in their tents, they would rise up and burn this city with fire." Now when the Chaldean army had withdrawn from Jerusalem at the approach of Pharaoh's army, Jeremiah set out from Jerusalem to go to the land of Benjamin to receive his share of property among the people there. When he reached the Benjamin gate, a sentinel there named Irijah, son of Shelemiah, son of Hananiah, arrested the prophet Jeremiah, saying, "You are deserting to the Chaldeans." And Jeremiah said, "That is a lie. I am not deserting to the Chaldeans." But Irijah would not listen to him, and arrested Jeremiah and brought him to the officials. The officials were enraged at Jeremiah, and they beat him and imprisoned him in the house of the secretary Jonathan, where it had been made a prison. Thus Jeremiah was put in the cistern house, in the cells, and remained there many days. Then King Zedekiah sent for him and received him. The king questioned him secretly in his house and said, "Is there any word from the Lord?" Jeremiah said, "There is." Then he said, "You shall be handed over to the king of Babylon." Jeremiah also said to King Zedekiah, "What wrong have I done to you or your servants or this people, that you have put me in prison?" Where are your prophets who prophesied to you, saying, the king of Babylon will not come against you and against this land? Now please hear me, my lord king. Be good enough to listen to my plea, and do not send me back to the house of the secretary Jonathan to die there. So King Zedekiah gave orders, and they committed Jeremiah to the court of the guard, and a loaf of bread was given him daily from the baker's street, until all the bread of the city was gone. So Jeremiah remained in the court of the guard. Let's see what's going on.
Poor Jeremiah.
So even in these, what we call ancient times, the intrigue of different powers vying for control, some appealing to God, some defying the idea of God, but it all seems so familiar. You know, with Jeremiah being arrested, because it appeared as if he was siding with the Chaldeans, who were the enemy. It didn't matter what the truth was. All that mattered is how it appeared to the guard. And the guard arrested him, and he remained arrested. Because ultimately the king did not like the, quote, word of God that came through him.
Right. Who wants to be told Babylon is
Yeah,
coming?
Babylon's
for you?
coming, and it's going to run over your kingdom and burn this city to the ground.
Jeremiah could have crossed his fingers and said, "No, everything's going to be fine," and get out of prison. But he didn't. Yeah, it's kind of. So he asked not to be put, this is what I'm not sure about. He gave bad news to the king. King's not happy about it, obviously. He asks not to be put back into the house of Jonathan.
Which is the cistern.
The
It's a
well,
pit,
yeah.
yeah.
And so, okay, but they put him in jail.
Yeah, they put him in a different place and fed him bread.
Right, so it's, why, if you gave such an awful report to the king, king's not happy, but he's going to do part of what you, I mean, he's not going to send you back to that.
Like
When
we
is
had a
this
bit of
written?
conscience.
Either that, to me, I would think he should just say, okay, just kill this guy. Or, you know, he gave me really rotten news. Now I'm trying to think, what would Trump do?
Oh, no.
And it just, well, it's very familiar. You have political enemies, what do you do with them? You put them in jail.
Well, and also, that's what I was saying. I'm driving around this morning, going here and there, and I'm thinking about, you know, in the history of the world, these dramas of the leaders, especially in the, what I call it, the milieu of people who believe in a higher power, right? So there is a belief that's practiced in various ways of a higher power, of God. And in that setting, and I'm not saying everybody believes that. There's lots of people in America who go, that's just a bunch of
Yeah.
wives' tales, and,
Right.
you know. But among the people who believe that God ultimately has a say, there are those who call God to their side to say, well, this is really, you know, God has blessed this administration, you know, and this initiative, and God will see it through and make sure that, you know, it's all, and so it, like the wheel goes round and round and round. And the king is both threatened by Jeremiah, because Jeremiah speaks a different word, but he's afraid to ultimately defy him. He's
Yeah.
afraid to.
Yeah, well, that's because he actually believes it.
Believes.
Or, you know, maybe.
That's what I was gonna say.
Maybe he's keeping his fingers
Yes.
crossed, like could be, might not be. Yeah.
Covering all bases.
Yeah. Well, didn't they just get Trump on, because I saw a clip of it, unless it's AI, him saying he's thinking about what he's got to do to get into heaven.
Oh, yeah, that discussion
Yeah.
came up a while ago.
And, you know, he's saying, I don't know if I'm going there, but, you know, I'm thinking about it. And I'm thinking, you don't believe, I don't know. You never know what's in somebody's heart. But all indications are he's making a mockery of all this.
Yeah, he tosses those things around like balls a juggler tosses around. Because he wants to be thought of as being able to handle that language. You know, he can't be thought of as a secularist who's outside the religious environment, because there's an awful lot of people who believe that he was religiously inserted,
Yeah.
you know, by God, that he's following God's call. So he shows up for those anointings, you know, when they want to put anointing with oil and pray for him, and he shows up for them.
Yeah, he goes along with it. So, does he really believe it or not? I have my doubts, but, because he wouldn't be making fun. He wouldn't be mocking, I think, if he really believed it. And this king's not mocking it either. This king, I think you're right. I think he kind of like on the fence.
Yeah,
too. I
hedging
don't
his
want to
bets, you know.
completely offend the God, but I will still keep you in jail. So maybe I won't put you to death, but I'll.
Well, I wonder if part of it is that the leadership doesn't want, I mean, Jeremiah has some credibility among the populace.
Right.
And he doesn't want Jeremiah wandering around on the street and disagreeing with the administration's news releases. He doesn't, he
And
doesn't,
there's no other way to, if he's confined, there's no iPhone or internet, or you can't get to everyone else and tell them, you know, watch out, what's going on.
I mean, look what Putin did to Navalny. I mean, he isolated him and put him in a prison cell, but even there, he couldn't stop him from communicating outwardly. He still managed to sneak information out, and from someone like Navalny, it's powerful. You know, it's very powerful. So Jeremiah's word was powerful. And the only thing I don't know is, okay, so if Jeremiah has an audience, a listening audience among the people, what power do they have to change things, to overwhelm the king? What difference does it make? I don't.
This is true. This is why I think it's a little perplexing. When was this recorded in this book? After Jeremiah was, you know, passed on in history? Or was it couldn't have been,
Contemporary to him.
yeah.
Yeah, it had to be someone writing about his life and about his witness, like a newspaper reporter doing a journalistic, you know, report back, with some accuracy in terms of what were the pressures, who was pushing for what.
Yeah.
What did Jeremiah want? That's not always clear to me. What did Jeremiah want? He wanted them just to acquiesce to Babylon and say, oh, you know, mea culpa, we've been bad people, we'll take our punishment, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
It's,
Nebuchadnezzar was a brutal king. This is the first time in reading these kinds of events. I did not realize that Nebuchadnezzar, in his conquest, appointed kings. You know, like conquerors often do.
right.
I
Put
didn't.
a puppet
Yeah,
in
I didn't
there.
realize he put puppet kings in the Israeli land. And so these kings that we're talking about, this king, what was the name of this king? Is Zedekiah? Yeah, Zedekiah is not a king after the tradition of other kings appointed by God and anointed. This king Zedekiah was put in place as a puppet by the conquering Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon. So, but he's still a Hebrew, and he's still worried about the effect that Jeremiah can have on his continuation in office. You know, he's like,
It says that the book of Jeremiah is not in chronological order. It is arranged thematically and topically, with historical events interspersed with prophetic messages. It's basically a collection of anthology that was compiled, making it difficult to determine a precise timeline for the prophecies and narratives.
well, that's sort of what, I think that's kind of what we're suspecting. You know, that Jeremiah represents a tradition of prophetic word that challenges kings and authorities and calls people to an accountability to God. And is both accepted and not accepted, challenged and not challenged. The man has power. His writings have power. And it's power that people who get into governmental office respect, because I guess he can affect how successful they are. But I don't know what he wants. What does he want from Zedekiah? I mean, his prophecy is, okay, first he's now pleading for his life, but prior to that, what was it he was saying?
Just be prepared that this is going to happen.
The word of the Lord came to Jeremiah and said, God of Israel, this is what the two of you shall say to the king of Judah, who sent you to me to inquire of me. Pharaoh's army, which set out to help you, is going to return to Egypt. So Pharaoh, the Egyptians are no longer going to help you make your last stand. And the Chaldeans shall return and fight against the city, and they shall burn it to the ground. Okay, so the prophecy is the destruction of Jerusalem.
And it doesn't get better when
No.
he talks to the king.
No.
So there's no advantage for Jeremiah in any of it. Goes from bad to worse.
And because then he gets accused, the Chaldeans, I guess, is the name of the invading army who's coming in and is going to destroy the last vestige of the promised people in the promised land. And then they accused Jeremiah of being one of them.
Yeah, well, we've heard that before too.
We have.
We've heard all these things.
This, you could do a course on studying the powers and dynamics of politics right here. And then you make a graph of it and hold it up to the current time, and you see it. You just see it unfold. And maybe it's because the one consistency is power.
Yeah.
It's power. It's the love of power and control.
So I think you're onto something there, though. Like, what good does his prophecy do if it's going to come to pass anyway? There was no do this or.
No, that's right.
So
It's a done deal.
yeah. So in a way, the king was like, oh, what the hell?
Well, maybe it's,
Why don't we do what we want anyway? And
maybe it would be a warning to the people who still lived in Jerusalem to finally give it up.
to get out of
You know,
town.
get out of town, and that would be very concerning to the king who's supposed to be in charge.
This is true.
You know, I mean, that would be very threatening because
You'd lose.
they would be following Jeremiah's word instead of the king's word. The king is saying, nope, stay here, we're going to win. The Egyptians are going to continue to fight for us, and we're going to win. Don't worry about the Chaldeans. And Jeremiah comes along and says, you have your head in the sand. You know, the Egyptians are leaving. I don't know how he got that word. Who told him? Did
God.
God tell him?
Come on, he's God's prophet. So he says this, And, okay, you can see the king's position is like, I'm not gonna tell people to run out of the city either for their lives.
Right.
Because I need them there. And if this turns out not to be true, then I've abandoned my power, my source of power.
Why is it, I was looking to see who the Chaldeans were. They're also known as the Babylonians, so why does it say?
Yeah, I don't know why they
in
changed
one-
the name of it.
Right in the same section, they're talking about Babylonians and Chaldeans, and they're saying now they're the same people. I thought
Which
they
is-
were like allies of Babylon, you know, that the
Babylon.
king sent his ally to do his dirty work. But it says it's the same thing.
And then, sometimes it's Nebuchadnezzar, and then sometimes it's Nebuchadrezzar.
Right. Right.
But that's the same. They're saying that Nebuchadrezzar is actually closer to the Akkadian pronunciation, or would have been. How they know that, I don't know, but we like to anglicize everything. So in that spirit of anglicizing all these names, why didn't they just call them Bill, Harry, and Ted? Why are we having to learn all these names? It gets very confusing because it's not part of our vernacular.
Right.
So you're getting everybody mixed up.
But really, why do you need to know it was the son of this
this.
and the brother of that and the uncle of this and?
Because
Yeah, just say the
clans
family.
meant a lot.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
I
that's
know,
the
just
culture.
put family.
The culture, though, is
it still is.
the connection.
Yep.
Why should you care about this person? Because whose son they are and whose
Exactly.
grandson they are. And my footnote says that this is all, they believe all of this was written by Jeremiah's scribe,
Oh, really?
Baruch.
Oh,
So
right, Baruch.
It's written by Baruch. And so let me just read this paragraph to you. It's debated whether Baruch actually penned the narrative or simply functions as its main character. As a main character. The intention of the narrative is also disputed. Some suggest it reflects historical interest to recount the final years of Judah. So it just as a history,
Okay.
especially for the exilic community. Others propose that the narrative highlights Jeremiah's innocent suffering. That's could be a really important part of this, is that Jeremiah suffered, but he was innocent, especially as a way to justify the nation's downfall. So if you're going to treat Jeremiah like dirt, you're done.
Okay, so
Still-
are we
yeah.
supposed to take some
I guess.
solace on that?
Still others
Because he's
read,
treating all his enemies like dirt.
still others read the narrative as a story of the Word of God, its rejection and eventual triumph. Although these chapters are more coherent than much of the book, they still resist singularity and give voice to competing and converging interests and ideology. So there's no accident in our trying to see how's this fit in and what does it mean in terms of this. I mean, it was a terrible period of time. You know, a city that was supposed to be part of the great project of God for ushering in a gateway of the way of God in the world is being dismembered. It's being burnt down. The people are being dispersed. The whole idea is at stake here. And so Jeremiah comes along to be a voice that says, no, this isn't random. This isn't sign that God isn't at work. God is still at work, and you need to listen to me, and I will lead you through this. So, and yet he's in jail,
Yeah, right.
but he didn't get killed,
No.
and Jerusalem is going to burn. It had to be, I don't know, try to think about what the symbols of our greatest achievements or greatest confidences are, in the world. Maybe it was the destruction of the World Trade Center. I don't know. That was a great sign of confidence for business, and for international business and for the well-being of the economy of the world. But
And of the invincibility of, our ideals, and it stood for a lot of stuff that it didn't actually stand for.
Right, but
we
people
did.
invested a lot in that. So
Exactly.
here's the free market economy. Look at what it can do. Look at its reach. Look at its power in the world. And yet it comes to the ground like every other building. And so that would be an example, but the religious part, I don't know, it wasn't there. And the religious ideology runs deeper in people, I think. And so if you're God, you know, if your whole way of life, your understanding, I don't know, man, I've never been a manifest destiny person, but, you know, if you were one of those people who believed that God had brought the European settlers to this land, North America, to conquer and to take over, then I don't
Know about that, but
I don't know about that either, but
that would be the opposite of a nice,
I keep
spiritual
thinking of the
lesson.
song, "With God on their side," or our side, or whatever, but, you know, that people always say God's on our side,
and that's the mistake. God's kind of on all of us. I mean, the universe is one entity beyond our planet. We're thinking that God takes sides in wars and little mundane disputes among
it's
human beings.
going again to the us and them.
yeah, it comes down to pronouns.
Oh,
I mean,
what's your pronoun?
you know, we like to quote that passage. Karl Barth said, you know, God is for us, who can be against us?
That's
We
the-
talked
yeah,
about it
yeah.
last night, but the question is,
Who's
when
us?
you say for us,
For us.
do you have the whole of human race and the natural environment? Is God for? God is pro-life,
Right, okay.
if I can use that language, but, but that's not how people apply it.
Not
If
at
God
all.
is for us, who can be against us?
They're thinking of individual armies or countries or, you know, people of power, not the whole of humanity.
And some of that language grows out of the conflict that the early church had in the first century, because there were people who were against Christians. They were killing them and martyring them. And the Apostle Paul says, you know, they can knock us down and we'll get back up, and they can push us out and we'll come back in. They can even kill us, and we will, in the end of time, rise from the dead. But that is very much a cloistered community under persecution.
Right.
And the idea that God, I mean, I do believe this. I don't think it matters who you are, but God is on the side of the persecuted.
The poor, the
The lame,
downtrodden.
the disenfranchised.
Send me the teeming refuse of your, I forget what the whole quote is. That's what this guy wants to erase. We're going to ignore those people because he can, because it's to the advantage of those in power to ignore the poor. That's the whole book. It's like, so in that case, yeah, there is a one side and another side. I don't even like to believe that, though. I mean, I think humanity, I'd like to see it as a whole. And as some people, let's not use the word woke, but some people are woke to the idea that everyone has value, and, you know, we're not going to judge people by how much do they mean to me, and, you know, in terms of income or what can I get out of them. We're going to err on the side of, let's give everyone a break. Let's give everyone a fair, and that's not what's happening in history. It's just not. It seems never to go that way.
Yeah, it never developed that way. Although I go back again and again, and sometimes I feel like it gets swallowed up in the facts, but that the covenant, the promise of God to Abram and Sarah was a promise. Yes, it was through their line of descendants, but the mission was always the same. It was, you know, you had the Tower of Babel, you had all the terrible things, and each one did what was right in their own eyes, and the destructive condition of human beings, and God enters the world. God engages, and how does God engage? God engages through relationship with Abram and Sarah, and it's a complicated story because the first generations of their family are abysmal, you know? They don't really get much of the blessing of the families of the earth into their veins, but eventually that mission begins to emerge. And for the first few years of the settlement in the land, depends on which historian you're listening to. You know, some of the historians want to tell the story of war and conquest and the defeat of the people who lived there. But in between the lines, the scripture and the record says, no, there was famine, there were bees, there were things that had happened, and there was basically a vacated land. So that you could move in and you could see it as the promised land. It had been cultivated, you didn't have to clear trees, and there was a way of life that was fairly easy. And then you take that gift and you become the oasis in the desert of the world. Your business scales are accurate, you are fair, you care for the poor, you have places for people who are fugitives to run to and find shelter. You are the blessing of God in the world.
You welcome the stranger.
You welcome the stranger.
You care for people who are on the other side of the world. Let's not forget there were whole civilizations at this time that were more advanced than these people.
Right.
And it seems that given enough time, human beings always go towards the strong man, the guy who, I don't, you know.
What happened in Spain during the time when all three Abrahamic religions got along? What caused that to happen? You know, that's the only time, I'm trying to think of any time
Well,
when...
it was actually a time when there was prosperity. So when everybody's prospering, everybody's kind of happy. I mean, there was never a time when everything was
Right,
perfect,
yeah.
but, you know, I don't know what happened with Isabella and Ferdinand, or was that who the king was? The ones who started the
Colonization?
no one expects
Inquisition?
the Inquisition, to quote Monty Python. Yeah, I guess. I don't know who got to them. I have to go back and read the history, because all of a sudden, if you were Jewish or you were a Muslim, you were not, you know, persona non grata. We'll still do business with you, but we're going to take a pound of flesh. If you're going to do business with us, we're going to start charging you differently. We're going to take more than, you know, we would if you were, say, a Christian. And then it got out of hand. Then all of a sudden, people were starting to be forced to convert or
Right.
face death or get out. And I think it probably was that there was prosperity and then something happened and people wanted power and money again. And
And they had
change.
to have a
I should
scapegoat.
really go back, because I always read about, the good times.
Right.
And then you're not paying too much attention to what happened to change that.
How is that not also the story in Turkey? I mean, for a good period of time, Turkey was an example of an accepting, Muslim majority, but an acceptance and a side-by-side collegiality between Christians and Jews and Muslims.
When was that? 'Cause
Well,
I'm thinking of...
Not that long ago.
Constantinople was part of the Holy Roman Empire. But, you know, power plays, it went back and forth, back and forth. It depended on how close you were to Constantinople, how far east you were, you know, what influence was there. But the Ottoman Empire was a lot rougher on Christians and Jews. They also had a place, but you paid a tax.
Right.
It's called a zimmi or something like that. But the Ottomans were traders. They knew the value. If you had the Jewish population were good with figures. We need these people. They're the bookkeepers. We need them. They're the money lenders, the bookkeepers. So there was some value there. The Christians, you know, I don't know what their population was about at the time, but they held some sway with other powers, so we keep them. Let's not rock the boat. I mean, Rome did that for a long time too. They let people, you know, practice their faith, and as long as you still gave us allegiance and paid your taxes, you were okay. I think a lot of these conflicts come about when things change in the business world. And I don't know what happened in Turkey, but the Ottomans I can tell you, World War I, the Ottomans went with the Axis powers.
And
That was
also
the end of
the
their...
Armenians, what did they do?
Well, they
Genocides.
will not tell you to this day that
Really?
that was a genocide, but of course, yeah. You're not allowed to, you can be put in jail in Turkey.
Really?
Still, if you decide that you're going to put in the history books, you know, what happened, 15 million Armenians were killed. Yeah. They chose the wrong side during World War II. They could have gone either way, but they chose to go with the Axis powers. It was the end of the Ottoman Empire, but the Ottomans controlled all of the Middle East, all around the eastern part of the Mediterranean. So that's why when people say, oh, well, there's no state of Palestine, there wasn't a separate country, but it was known as Palestine
Yeah,
because it was
it was
part
the
of the
region,
Ottoman
right,
Empire.
right.
They weren't allowed to say, we're a sovereign nation. People, you know. So then what happened? Our side won. So then Europe carved up all those places, and Turkey had to pay the price. Turkey was, you know, not treated very well, like a lot of places, a lot of Axis countries after the war. And they always had a beef with the Greeks. So there's, you know, these regional things, but
But was it also, certainly the Germans and the Japanese were treated well after the war.
well, we sort of had this benevolent idea that if you treat people well, they won't come back to bite you in the behind.
Right, plus it's
Oh,
a rebuilding
But they
idea.
did,
Yeah.
but you're saying with the Turks,
With the Turks, it was a little more complicated.
Maybe it was-
They were more foreign because they were mostly Muslim. But, you know,
but, you know, the Japanese were-
right. But we didn't,
Well,
we weren't
what is
the
it
only
that-
ones that were
right,
it was a, you know,
right, European theater also as to what they, you know,
What about more recently, the role of Ataturk?
well, he wanted to bring Turkey into the modern world.
Right,
And
and so,
he did.
and
He
it's
did.
during that time that, I mean, the groups that travel around here, they're trying to build relationships between Muslims and Christians and Jews. They're operating in the spirit of Ataturk. And Ataturk's vision was, and for a while it held, and that is that we can live peaceably with each other. We can respect each other, and we can create a world that is productive for all of us. That's changed,
Yeah, and
and he's,
he actually had more, his emphasis was not on religion.
no, it
It
wasn't.
was,
He
let's
believed
enter the
government should
modern
be-
world.
Right.
Right.
It should
and-
be civil government. I mean, the reason so when I go for my physical, or I have to go to the doctor, my doctor is Turkish Muslim. And he knows I'm a Christian pastor. So he always has a book for me. He has a story to tell. And he is pleading in a way for a remembrance of Turkey when Turkey made the appeal for a secular government.
Yeah.
That secularism is the key to our getting along. That we have to, whether we're Jewish or Muslim or Christian, and yet look at where we are. Look at the, you know, as soon as the conservative Christian church starts to claim this is a Christian nation, the conflict rises.
The,
You know,
you're, the,
defining people
beware,
outside.
the
Yeah.
flags of beware, don't go there. Because it seems to be, you know, God is benevolent and God can be a terror to governments.
Well, yeah,
Because you use it,
Yeah,
you're using God to your advantage or your power and not put God, don't use God that way. Don't put words in God's mouth. That's easier said than done, though.
But I
People
think
do it
that the
all
period
time.
of the last 200 plus years of success of a democracy in this country has been the willingness to sideline religion and allow civil understandings, even if you want to find God behind them.
Right.
You know, you can find that somehow there's a God who ordained the idea of freedom. And you can appeal to that in a civil sense,
Right.
which is what I think the Constitution does.
I think so,
I think
too.
it's also what those people who sat around the tables and forged the government believed, that there was a place for everybody. And that,
They weren't super Christians.
no, they weren't. They weren't. I
Many of
wish
them
they
were.
would have been. I really do. I wish they
Right,
would
they
have
might
been
have.
super Christian and then taken a stand to say, when I walk in this building, I put my Christianity in an envelope and embrace a more civil humanity. You know, I think,
Well, the Dutch that came to New York, they were not interested in what religion you were. They were more interested in commerce. That's why to this day, New York is the commercial hub of the country. Started out that way, and it's, you know, they were not as interested in, you know, controlling faith. People came and went, you know, there were a lot of Jews at the time. There were Muslims. There were free black Muslims in New York. They weren't bothered because they were not Christian. Of course, you know, the Dutch were Christian people, but they were capitalists. That's what they cared about. If you don't rock the boat and, you know, try and take away my power to earn money, or maybe exploit people, but I'm making money. Exploitation had nothing to do with religion. It had more to do with, we're more powerful than you.
right, but my experience of the Dutch, especially in this area, is out there in the public, they don't need to be identified as Christians, but they cloister.
Oh,
They cloister. They draw strength from, you know, being closed. They have their own school network.
But they don't try to tell everybody else, except for the blue laws, because they are real big on don't do anything on
On
Sunday. Other than that, they're really.
But I don't know, I guess in that sense, they're not like, in cloistering, they're not too worried about the people who aren't Christians, so they're not evangelizing. They're not
Right.
messing around in other people's religion. They'll do business with you,
Right.
but they're unto themselves. What's the comparison in terms of my family is, you know, my grandmother was a Moravian. Now, the Moravians also believed that government should be, you know, a secular, they were fine with that. But the Moravians were hospitality people. They did not cloister. They didn't. They had their own communities, you know, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and all. They had their own communities, but their religion was hospitality and generosity to those who are not Christians. And so they were never, you know, they were never part of developing lines of struggle and fighting. And I don't know what the role of the Dutch now is. I don't know where they are
I
politically.
don't think it's really Dutch anymore. It's just, you know, that was that legacy. Most people who call themselves Dutch are generations removed.
Yes.
And of course, you know, Holland from now is different from, you know, we're talking about what, 16 whatever? Yeah, it's a whole different thing. But I don't know.
But
I
there's
think in the
still a s-
world, if you look at how power moves, and it seems to me religion is always a secondary thing. If somebody thinks they're losing power or wealth, they'll point to religion and blame it for something. They'll make you a scapegoat if you're different.
Or they appeal to God and the strength of God to rally people together to try to reclaim what they believe they're losing. And so, you know, we have religious wars. I mean,
And they're hardly, look at Ireland. Do you really think they sat down and they argued about what makes you a Protestant, what makes you a Catholic? I didn't
no,
think
they
there
didn't
were
even
too
really
many
know.
theological
They didn't really even
debates.
know the
Yeah.
differences,
They
and they were
weren't-
both Catholics.
They weren't debating theology. They were debating who had the jobs, who
Right.
had the money. And I identify as a Protestant, and you're connected with the England, and I identify with the Irish, the Catholic, and I'm being discriminated against. It wasn't a theological thing. So that's what always makes me kind of angry when people say, well, you know, it was a religious war. Oh, it's like it was not a religious war. It was a war between the haves and the have-nots.
Well, and that's why I would say the same about our situation right now. I think there is a kind of a subterranean war going on right now, and it's a war for control, and that there are lots of people who think it's a Christian war. It's a war for Christianity. Christianity is being depleted, and, you know, that the real...
But what's ironic is so many of the new immigrants are Christian.
I know, but that's a Christianity they don't recognize. They don't recognize that. That's not really Christianity. I think I told you before, Orlando Costas, who was my missiology professor, said he was from Costa Rica, and he was big on people in the U.S. calling this America. Like, you know,
Right.
oh, he was like, you people, you are so narrow. And so to seminary students, he was saying, don't let me catch you doing this.
Yeah.
You are Americans, and I'm an American too. I was born and raised in Costa Rica, in America. And then his next thing was sometimes he saw himself as a prophet. He was a brilliant man and had the right. And he said he saw, at that time, there was a belief that the world was lining up north against the south. And he believed that the time was going to come where, shockingly, in the United States, there was going to be a war between the North America and South and Central America, and the bullets were going to fly, and this is how he said it. A bullet is going to go from a Christian's gun into a Christian's chest.
Yeah. But that's also, again, power. And it has nothing, nobody is out there saying, okay, we reject their theology.
No, it's not that at all. It's not.
Most Christians here that are saying the Mexicans, and they're going to pretend that, you know, they're the true Christians. Then how come all those Mexicans name their kids Jesus?
Yeah.
If they're not Christian, why are they calling their kids Jesus?
And you know, in
They're
Orlando's language is, you know, it's like Costa Rica is a poorer country, and if you don't want to think of them as Christians, then explain how they get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, they walk an hour to a gathering every single day, where an evangelist will teach and preach the gospel and the Bible, and then they walk back and go to work at 9 o'clock, and they do that every day. The discipline of their lives puts Christianity in America to shame.
Exactly.
And-
Yeah, wow.
Hardworking, too.
And
They're
the
not
question,
lazy.
the question he had always was, do you know what they're studying? Do you know what they're doing?
Right.
They're studying theology. They're plumbing the meaning of Jesus as fully God and fully human. They are studying theology, and it's classic theology. It's the stuff that Europe said was the defining mark between a Christian and not a Christian. Now, you know, these immigrants, we call them immigrants, but
But they're also dangerous because they're also listening to what Jesus had to say. And that makes them dangerous because they would be then in opposition to power, which was what Jesus did.
I know, and that's what got Jesus crucified.
Exactly.
What
So
if-
that is not, you don't, but how ignorant when people in this country say, we don't want all these immigrants, they're lazy. How? How are they? It's because they're not sitting in an office going like this? No, they're really toiling. What the heck? People are just, they're blind to what they want to see. They'll hear what they want to hear. And I think it's always been that way. I always think, I wish we had a book written not by the scribes and the prophets and the kings I wish we had a big book about what was it like to be Omar the donkey boy, or Mary the handmaid, or like the regular people. Did they really care about this jazz? They just probably wanted people to leave them alone, let them live their lives, let them be a farmer, let them trade. No restrictions about, oh, you can't go here because those people are different. You can't marry their daughters because they're different from. They probably just wanted to get along and do things that made sense to them, and maybe be fair to most people instead of always trying to find something to argue and fight about. And whose side is God on?
Later on, after this time, there is, for the time just before Jesus and after, are the writings of Josephus. Now, Josephus is not a religious writer. He's like the New York Times reporter.
Yeah.
And so you can see and hear from Josephus' point of view, the man on the street, the woman on the street, and you see him watching Christianity and Rome and describing that. But God, he's the only one. Now he was
Well, he's the only one whose writings kind of got passed down. I'm
that
sure
survived.
Right.
Or if they could write even, I don't know.
Right.
But I don't know, I'm cautious about making the common person too neutral. I think that their allegiances, I watch the allegiance that is growing still to the despot that we have as the president. And I will not put an optimistic line between what he wants and what they want. They have accustomed themselves to want what he is pursuing.
Until, like, you hear the farmers now. Yeah, they voted for him. Most farmers will admit they voted for him. Now, when they interview the soybean farmers, they're like, we didn't vote for that. That's not what we want.
Well, I think that'll be true until he pays them.
And they also are starting to say, we don't want, a one-time handout. We want to sell what we're growing. They want to have a pride in what it is they're doing. So in that respect, I don't think they're different from most other people. They might have gotten a bit sidetracked.
I think, again, I'm careful about who gets quoted and who you can see. I have farmers in my family, and I'm going to tell you right now, you'll never hear them saying that kind of stuff. They're waiting for their check, and here's what's holding them on. That they're willing to go with Trump to adjust the broken world. And that the money, as long as the money from incoming tariffs right now will be given to them so they can survive, they can hold on, and when they see Trump as adjusting an uneven scale, and that he will make this adjustment, and they will be able to then sell their products in the world and be back in demand again. They're holding out for this future that he's talking about. I mean,
Yikes.
we are not inclined to that because we never believed it to begin with. But there's lots and lots of people who, maybe not big majorities, but,
Right.
30% of the American population is a massive number of people. And they are not losing faith with him. They are not.
And the folks who call themselves evangelical Christians, you keep thinking, how could they admire this guy? And they say, well, we do think God put him here for a reason. And it doesn't mean we agree with everything that he does or says, but he's acting out God's plan.
Yeah, God called him.
I,
God
of
called him
course,
to
disagree with that.
No, I know.
But
Now, I will say to you, and some of it is, I know that the algorithms direct me to that which I already want to believe. But I'm seeing more and more snippets of sermons from large evangelical churches where the pastors are, quite frankly, they're describing the mission of Jesus and describing the mission of Donald Trump and saying, this cannot be the same, especially African American
I
churches.
thought you were going to say they agree. I'm glad you're hearing more of.
Oh my goodness! I mean,
Because
and
the contrast
yeah.
is amazing. It's
and they're
immense.
big. I mean, it's big churches
Is this
and
the
big
person?
communities.
Is this the person?
That's the electrician. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris is going to show him what needs to be done.
Okay. I don't know if he was
Does he
hesitant
need
to
to
come
get
in
in,
because
or
we're
we-
in.
No, he's going to go down to the circuit box.
Oh, okay. Unless he takes a look first.
Yeah.
Hi.
Good morning. It is still morning, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
There's a double pole circuit breaker in the panel, and you cannot get it to reset.
Okay. Well, I see 2 lights that are out
Yeah, those are just light bulbs.
over here,
Yeah.
over the.
Oh, no, these 2 light fixtures are on that, tied into that same circuit. And the other is the outlets on that wall. They're also tied into it. So,
Carry on.
yeah, okay. So, like I said, I'm aware that this thing, my cell phone, it can be a cesspool of ideas you like. You
Right.
know?
As long as you
Absolutely.
tie in.
And
with-
that's,
Yeah, right.
it's never been my way to only gather what I agree with. But the gap is so wide.
It is, it's like, do you live in the same country? What is,
I just,
there was I don't know the man's name, an author of a book that's just out now about AI, and the ultimate goal of these big corporations, why they're folding, is because they see a future where we won't need human beings to do a lot of the jobs they're doing now. We're going to be displaced, and there'll be like just 4 or 5 big corporations that run the whole world. And it's like, that is really, really scary.
Well, we have monopolies now, and
We do.
it's going to more monopolies.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think, what he was saying, like, it's going to get more narrow. Our antitrust laws, which I'm saying, what happened to them?
Right.
That's going to be something that's not going to figure into the future, which is really, really frightening. What are we going to find for people to do? I mean, there are always going to be jobs that need human hands, but not as many as you think, now that you see what
Yeah,
AI can
people
do.
said that when farms,
I
we
know.
didn't,
when what?
yeah, when farms didn't,
Oh.
agriculture was not as important, and manufacturing was not as important, and then computers, so.
But farms did change, because now we have the giant conglomerate agribusiness, which displaced the, most of the family farms. I mean, most people were farmers 100 and some odd years ago.
Even like 50 years ago.
Right,
But again, inventions and machinery,
yeah.
the tractors used to pull 4 bottom plows, and it would take, most of the morning to plow 40 acres.
Right.
The tractors nowadays, they have treads like bulldozers on them, and they pull 30 bottom plows, and they can plow massive fields, and the fields are all merged together now. You
And
know,
see,
they've
that's
become
like
corporations
progress.
themselves.
It's progress, in a sense, but what do you lose? You lose heirloom fruits and vegetables, you
But they're
lose.
still talking about hydroponic and where you can, even on someone's roof in New York, you can have.
Is that gonna be a big business, though? I think,
Well,
we're
but that's
already
what, we don't
seeing-
want big business.
No, it'll break down. Like my brother's hydroponic business. You know, he defies all those rules, but I'm amazed too. There's tricks, like the seeds that they get for their hydroponic business. Copyrights on seeds
Right,
are
that's,
phenomenal,
yeah,
you know, and they're owned by big corporations.
big corporations, and you can see
if you-
which field was planted with seeds that were treated with different biotechnologies. They're supposed to identify them right next to a field that's not. And the guy who has the field that's not is saying, you know, I'm organic. The wind makes it impossible to do that. And then in the end, it's the marketing of food. Food's a huge business, but they're gonna market what they think people will buy. What do we buy? Vast quantities of sugary
Processed
crap,
food.
which has made us all less healthy. It's like, and it's a big business. This is what we want, you know, if you're gonna fight that, good luck to you. I mean, that is,
Well, if you, like, you know, I'm not a big reader of science fiction, but they always said if you want the real profits of the current time, read science fiction. And you know what's amazing is how much of it is following
Turns
exactly in the trend that they're talking about. You know,
that's scary.
that, you know, business takes over. What was that movie, I, Robot? You know, where they had, and the robots started a rebellion, and, you know, it's so in the disaster mindset of the authors, there's doom and gloom, but all around it is the signs and the facts of where just industry and all kinds of inventions will go. It will be a different world. It already is a different world.
It is.
And if you don't know what's going on, this thing called algorithms, you know, and the ability to predict you and to, you know, it's like,
You know what they want, let's give them what they want.
yeah, they
They'll be
identify
happy.
you by what they hear, by what you clicked, and by, you know, it's just,
Unless you're like me and you don't know how to click.
And they still have an algorithm
For
for the
idiots.
Luddites.
right, that's right, they'll find you.
I don't know.
Well, I'm on the side of Jeremiah, you know, I want to, just, please don't
Yeah.
put me into prison.
Well,
Just
and
at
you
least
know,
put me in some decent place and give me a loaf of bread once a day.
yeah, but he's gonna face more time.
Well, because he won't keep his mouth shut.
Right, yeah.
He won't just simply give in and say to the Babylonians, you know, I guess what you say is right. He won't.
He is Antifa.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
You know, in that debacle that they had on yesterday with Bondi not answering a damn
Yeah,
thing
I
that a
know.
Democrat asked. She had this big binder full of crap about each senator that she was
Right.
going to.
Right, right.
Right.
And
She
when
had
it
the
got to
dirt on him.
Mazie Hirono, she said, and you were caught out demonstrating with Antifa. First of all, there is no such an organization as Antifa. There's so many memes like making fun of that, like, okay, turn in your badge, we're closing off the lights. And so Maisie's out demonstrating. I give her applause.
Me too.
And that was supposed to be like a slur.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
right,
is what
of
where
course.
you defiant, you're rebellion.
I mean, you're standing up for the the little people? Oh, how dare you?
All right, I'm going to turn
Never
off
ends.
the microphone.
Okay.
Where do we go?